Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you here today. I'm excited to explore a topic that I'm very, very into these days. Lots of incredible possibilities with this vibe coding thing. We're going to dive in, and even if you have absolutely no experience, in fact, especially if you have absolutely no experience, this is going to open your eyes and open your mind to a lot of different, really powerful possibilities. And of course, when we think about vibe coding, we think about using artificial intelligence, using AI to create computer code. In my mind, artificial intelligence, AI, is all about exploring new frontiers. I remember when these tools were first coming out, I got really excited because I draw like this. This is an original Ben Talsma artwork. This is a baboon fighting a duel with sticks against a weasel in a surrealist style. So when I first heard that these tools could create images, I went and I created that very thing. This is way back in 2022, and I was just amazed to see that all of a sudden I could have an idea in my head and I could bring that to life. I could do something that I just couldn't do before. So for me, the real promise of artificial intelligence in education is that it allows teachers to gain new superpowers. If you want to write a sonnet or create a picture or write a song, you now have the ability to do that. My objective today is to show you one more frontier, one more superpower that you can access. And that, of course, is you are now. You can be a computer programmer. You can build things electronically that you just couldn't before. Now, when people hear vibe coding, when they hear writing computer code, a lot of them feel like frightened baby right there. My hope is that by the end of the day today, you feel like happy and excited baby. You are ready to go out and experiment and explore. If you've already done some of this, my hope is that you've got a couple of new ideas about things that you might be able to do that you just never thought of before. So let's dive in and get going. I'd like to start off with a quick poll. So Robin, if you could pull that first poll up, I want to know what our experience level looks like. How much vibe coding experience do you have? So Robin's going to leave that poll open for just a little while. Go ahead and lock your answer in. Are you coming at this as a complete novice? Have you done a bunch of this or anywhere in between? Robin, you're going to give them a couple of more minutes to answer this question?
Not a couple minutes, but we'll give them a couple more seconds.
A couple minutes would be ridiculous. We'll have to use that figuratively and say a couple of seconds to answer this question. Let's go ahead and see what we've got there, Robin.
All right. So it looks like most people in this group, 74% of them are a little novice with no experience with vibe coding. And then we have 16% very little, and then 5% for both moderate and lots.
Okay, it's a good thing I built this webinar then to help people who have absolutely no experience. Again, even if you are those people who have lots of experience, I hope you get something out of this, but we are going to spend some time really thinking about what this is and how to do it in a very nuts and bolts kind of way. Before we start exploring that, there will be a recording available of this webinar. Feel free to share that with anyone, share it around your school. It's great to build a little community of people who are experimenting and exploring these tools together. There's also a resource hyperdoc available in the chat that links to all of the different things we're going to explore today. Please make sure to make use of that. And she already spoke just a little bit, did the poll, but behind the scenes, if you have any technical difficulties, we have the one and only Robin. Robin, would you like to say hi to the people again?
Of course. Hi, everybody. Welcome, or thanks for joining us. And either happy start to your school year, as some of you may have already started, and then happy end of summer to those that haven't started yet.
It is an exciting time of year, that's for sure. I also need to mention our sponsor, which is Van Andel Institute for Education and their Flex PD. I just got done doing a full day of PD yesterday, a full day of PD today. It's an exciting time of year for me where I get to connect with teachers all across the state, all across the country, and help support them in the work that they do. We do a really good job, myself and my colleagues, very highly reviewed professional development. If this is something that we can help your organization with throughout the year, you can take your phone out, you can scan that QR code and set up a time where we can chat, or just fire me an email. There's nothing that we like more than supporting incredible teachers such as yourself. So now that the sponsorship is out of the way, here is our very simple agenda. We're going to get started with getting started. How do you get started with vibe coding tools? What in the world are you supposed to do in order to become a vibe coder? Then I'm going to share some different creative ideas. It's one thing to know how to do it, but sometimes we get stuck. We don't know what our possibilities might even look like. So I'm going to hopefully share a powerful frame that you can use to start generating ideas for things that you might want to create. And then we'll talk about your next steps going forward and how you can bring these to life for you and for your students. So as mentioned, we're going to start off getting started. I'm going to show you a picture right there. I'm going to show you a picture of a 69 Boss 429 cube semi-hemi big block 735 Holly carburetor top loader, all that stuff. As you can probably tell from the way that I pronounce that, I have no idea what I'm talking about or what any of that means. As I look at that, that looks like a car and it looks like it's green, and that is about the extent of my knowledge. I am not a car guy. When I look under the hood of my old school minivan, my big question is, what in the world does all that stuff do? However, with some of these AI tools, I have started to do stuff on my own. I've started to be able to figure out how to make some replacements, some modifications, some diagnostics, because these tools are so helpful at allowing me to ask them questions and learn as I go. AI tools can really help us to try new things, to experiment, to explore, and to have support as we look to do that. And that same thing is true with coding. If you've got some questions, you can go to one of these AI tools and you can share a picture of what you're looking at. Say, hey, here's what it looks like. What do you notice? Here's what I tried. Did I do it the right way? And quite often it will say, Ben, you moron, you put it in backward. And I can take it out and put it in the correct way. It's so helpful to have that kind of close and personal support as I go through trying to experiment and explore. That same thing is true when it comes to vibe coding. You have these AI tools and you can share a snapshot of what you're looking at. You can ask it any question you want, and you don't need to feel embarrassed about asking a ridiculous question because it's just an AI program. It really is helpful to go through this in a DIY kind of way. So the tools that we're going to share today, as we look at getting started, I'm going to emphasize kind of the free and unlimited approach, stuff which is available to anybody, which is not going to cost you anything. You might as well do it that way as you're getting started. Now, if you decide that this is your life's mission and you want to take it a little deeper, there are other options. But everything I'm going to explore here in the first section involves stuff that's free and unlimited. So when we get started as vibe coders, here's the basic approach. You're going to go to your favorite large language model, your favorite AI program, like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, and you are going to ask it to build some code for what you want to create. It is going to generate some code for you. And then here's the key. You're going to take that code and you're going to bring it to a code playground, a place. I'm going to share a couple of different options with you, a place where you can take that code and use it to bring it to life. Right. And again, there are several of these that are free that you can create dozens or hundreds of different resources with. All you need to do is use your AI system to get the code and then go to the code playground, put it where it's supposed to go. It's pretty straightforward, and it will generate something for you. One of those is called JS Fiddle. Again, if you just go to the resource HyperDoc or Google JS Fiddle, you will see something that looks like this. It looks very basic, kind of techy, but don't be intimidated. It's super simple to use. Another one, the one that I use personally, is CodePen. CodePen, again, you can create a free account there. I've created hundreds of things inside of CodePen, and I found it super simple for you to use. Those are just two. There's lots of different options there. If you want to do some experimenting, some exploring, just do some Google searching or chat with your AI program. Find one that fits your needs. But for the purposes of this webinar, CodePen is what I'm going to be referencing, and I encourage you to check that out as a possibility. All right. If you need some additional support, if you want me to be a little bit more specific about what this process looks like, I've got a hyper simple cheat sheet for you. In that resource hyperdoc is a link to this resource, right? It gives you some instructions in case you forget anything that we discussed today. Then it gives you this space to copy and paste. Again, this is super simple. You can tell it who you are and what you're teaching. You'd like to create this resource. Here are some things about it, some different features, some visual style recommendations. All you have to do is fill in the blanks and it will generate code for you. This is code that all you need to do is copy and paste it into a code playground like CodePen, and it will create for you the thing that you describe. So in that resource, I gave an example. Right? I gave an example about a 9th grade teacher who wants to teach about unintended consequences and has an idea for a game that might help students to learn this. So I filled in those blanks there in a way that you might if you are using the tool. Then what happens is it will give you 3 different kinds of code, right? Super simple to keep track of, just 3 different panels. It even gives you a little button. Your AI program will give you a button where you can just copy all the code that is that kind of code. The 3 different kinds of code are HTML. This is going to tell the computer what kind of parts it's going to have in this resource. The CSS is like the design. It's going to tell the computer what it should look like. And the JavaScript is going to tell the computer what it should do. It's going to be about the functionality. You can look at this and you can feel like frightened baby. You can feel intimidated. You can feel scared, but you don't need to understand a single word of any of this in order to create something awesome for your kids. Now, one thing that I find is that as I've used this more and more, I start to be able to understand it more and more. I start to be able to figure out what different things are doing, and that's fun, but it's not necessary. You will just get this code, and all you have to do is put it into the correct spots. If you go to, for instance, CodePen, you can see there are very simple places for the HTML code, the CSS code, and the JS code. The 3 different kinds of code that your AI gives you go into the 3 different panels, right? It's as simple as that. Your AI program will give you the 3 kinds of code. You can paste the 3 kinds of code in there, and it will generate what that code describes. You can go ahead and save that so you can come back to it later. You can, title it, you can save it. You can also go to a full page or preview mode so that you can see that thing in full screen functionality. It is as easy as that. Tell your AI program what you want. Take those different kinds of code, put them into your code playground, and you will have a thing. It will appear as if by magic. Now, what you will probably notice is it's not going to be exactly the way that you wanted it to be. And again, this is super simple to fix. Go back to your AI program. Tell it what you want it to change. It will give you code that you can use to fix that up. I've got one little hack for you complete novices. Tell it to give you the full panel for any code that needs to be changed. So you don't have to go and find which lines need to be replaced. You can just erase the whole thing you had before and put the whole new block of code in there. So ask it to give you the full panel for any code that needs to be changed. And then again, right away, that will appear. Those changes will be put into effect. If you build something for your students or you build something you want to share, you can easily click on the share feature. You can also just share the URL, right? The web address that this thing is stored in. Those will both give anyone else access to this thing that you have built. It's super cool. So to review, go to your AI program, tell it what you want, and it will give you code. Again, that will come in 3 different flavors, 3 different types of code. You can take those and put them into your favorite code playground, and it will create something for you. You can see how it works. Ask your AI program to make any changes and put those full panels back in until you've got it the way that you like it. Couple of pro tips. Again, if you are just getting started, a couple of things that can be really helpful. First, I love this idea. Before you have your AI thing build you the code, before you ask Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude for the code, ask it what 3 questions it wonders that will help it to build this in the best way possible. Right? It'll give you 3 simple questions. You can answer them. That helps you to make that first pass as close as possible to the thing that you really want. Also, again, if you're a complete novice, this might look surprisingly long. Sometimes the code it gives you is going to be 1,000 or 2,000 lines of code long. So make sure that you wait until it's all done putting code out before you paste that into your code playground. And you don't want this to become a giant time suck, which it can if you continue to fiddle and fiddle and fiddle and fiddle with it. What I've found in my work building these resources is the 70, 90, 97 rule. Your first iteration, the first thing you create, is usually pretty solid. It's 70% of the way to what I'm really envisioning. If I take the big suggestions that I have for it, the things I notice right away, and I ask it to improve it, it gets 90% of the way there. The third iteration is about 97% of the way there. So when you're planning out your time, it generally takes 2 or 3 iterations to get something that I'm really comfortable sharing with students, right? And I really feels like this is a pretty good thing that I'm happy with. If you want it to be perfect, it can take lots of iterations, but if you want it to be really, really, really good, sometimes it takes 2 or 3. So, super simple cheat sheet. You came in here knowing nothing about this, and you haven't even had a chance to experiment and explore with it yet. But when you do, you're going to find it's a pretty simple process. Build code in your favorite AI. Use that resource that I put in the hyperdoc if it's helpful. Take that code and paste it into a playground. The 3 kinds of code in the 3 different places. You don't need to know anything about the code in order to build something awesome. Name it, save it, preview it, play around with it. If you need any fixes, go back to your AI and tell it what you'd like to change. Beginner's tip, get full panels of code so that you don't have to make tiny little minute edits. That can save you a lot of hassle. Now, there are some other tools that you might be curious or might find use for. CodePen is great because it allows you to build something for this one kind of computer who accesses this. But if you want your kids to interact with each other, you've got to have a place for all of that information to come together. Supabase is the one that I use. It looks a little complicated, but you can just ask ChatGPT or your AI to help support you in this. You can create things where kids can play with each other or can interact with this tool together by using something like Supabase. Again, if you're struggling with something, you can just ask GPT. These tools, CodePen, using your favorite AI, you can get tons and tons of free, unlimited access. There are some paid, powerful things out there that I think are kind of cool. Couple of them just to share. Lovable and Replit are both really awesome because you can build and play or preview your code right there inside the tool. You don't have to worry about going out to CodePen and pasting things in. This interface is pretty clean. It's pretty simple. It might be a great place for you just to go and build something so you can see what this is like. But you do run into your limit really fast, and then it prompts you to pay up. Whereas with CodePen, you can build dozens, you can build hundreds of things without having to spend a dime. I love approaching this whole thing with the same mindset that we want students to adopt. We want kids to have a maker's mindset. We want them to be problem solvers, experimenters, explorers. If you're curious about vibe coding, that's the best way to approach it. Take a little dabbling, a little footstep into the waters. See what it's like. If you have some trouble, you can email me. You can also go to your favorite AI program and tell it what you're wondering. Ask questions. That's the way that we learn. All right. Pop quiz. In your mind, you don't have to answer this out loud. You don't have to answer this on paper. Just think, which of those best describes the pathway that I was discussing for getting started with vibe coding? I'll give you just a minute to take a peek at that and think what your answer would be. All right, hopefully you've got your answer locked in, because the next thing is a poll. A poll from Robin. How confident are you in your answer? Robin, could you go ahead and, if that's the poll that you're looking at, open that poll up for them? Looks like that poll is open. Just express your heart, follow your heart. How confident are you?
All right, Ben, they're still rolling in, but they're slowing down a bit. We'll give them about 5 more seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's see those answers. Robin, how confident are they in their answers?
All right, it looks like at the top we have 29% are moderately, and that is the highest percentage we have, followed by a little bit and quite a lot, and then the other two at the bottom.
Sounds great. All right, taking a look at those questions again. Hopefully the answer that you gravitated toward was A. You're going to build code with an AI, paste it into a playground, and test it out. If you need to make changes, you can do that with your AI system, and then you can share your finished product with your students. You don't need to learn a programming language. You don't need to start coding from scratch, right? You don't want to share stuff until you've had a chance to fix it up. You just have to get that code, paste it in, test it out, and then once it's ready to go, you can share that out. All right, I promised you some ideas of the kinds of things that you might be interested in creating, the kinds of things that are possible for somebody with no programming knowledge, no computer science background, just taking some creativity and using that same process, right? Build the code with AI, paste it into the playground, test it out, fix it up, and share your awesome work with the world. So when I work with teachers, when I think about building these tools, they kind of fall into 4 buckets. We can build games and make learning playful. We can build simulations, right, to model different concepts for students, allow them to experiment and explore with them. We can build teacher tools, things for ourselves that we can find useful, and we can use this for evaluation, for testing in interesting ways, assessing in interesting ways, and getting good data about it. So we'll explore those one at a time. My hope is that as you see these, maybe you want to use some of these as is. You can certainly do that, but also it might spark something in you, an idea, a creative application, something that's a little different that you might want to bring to life yourself. So let's start with the games. When we think about vibe coding, a lot of people say, hey, my kids love video games. My students love electronic games. I can build them that are customized to my content, that help me teach the things that I need my kids to understand. Sometimes we can do that just by injecting a little extra playfulness. So instead of building or having kids do a worksheet, you might build a game where they do the same sorts of questions, but now they have to click on the answer as a bouncing ball. If I click on this, it should bring that up. So now I've got some math questions. I've got bouncing balls, and I need to click on the correct one. A little bit more reflexes, a little bit more interactivity. You can see I've got a timer up here. I'm going to try and get it in a minute or less, right? If I get it wrong, oh, shoot, wrong answer. Need to find the correct one. So you can use it to take something you're already doing and make it just a little bit more playful. And again, how did I bring this to life? I said, I'm teaching my students simple addition and subtraction facts. I'd like to build a game where there's a question at the top and where the answer and some distractors are bouncing balls bouncing around in a rectangle. I'd like to set a timer for 1 minute and see if they can answer 10 questions in that minute. And all of a sudden, I had the code. I could paste into CodePen and build that thing that you just saw. Took me minutes. You can also use this to add an element of intrigue or discovery to your learning. How many of us do vocabulary and we have some matching activities? Well, why not take that matching and turn it into a memory game? Here I've got some ELA terms, some words, and some definitions. And I can play this game of memory and I can see how many turns it takes me, right? It's keeping track of my turns. As I explore those different possibilities, I try and remember them, just a different level of engagement, a different feel, as opposed to just matching things up. Now I'm playing. You find that this engages kids more deeply, engages deeper thinking in them, and adds that element of discovery. They're all familiar with the game memory, so it's easy for them to pick up. They can dive in and practice their vocab in a much more enjoyable way. And again, you could customize this to any vocab that you want them to explore. We also want students to learn through inquiry, by experimenting, by exploring, by playing around with different ideas. One way to do that, where they have to sort things into different categories. They have to figure out what those categories are. One powerful way to do that is, what's my rule? So if I've got a concept where there's lots of common mistakes, I can create a game. In fact, I have created a game where they have to sort things out. Here we're learning about complete sentences. And so one of these categories, I don't know which one yet, is going to be complete sentences. This is a complete sentence, so this must be the complete sentence category. I'm also going to include all the common mistakes that students make. In this case, it's missing end punctuation. So I can go through and I can try and figure out which category is missing end punctuation. Then when I see another question or another example that shares that same mistake, I know it goes into that same group. Here we have a new mistake, so we know it's going to go into a new category. And again, I'm analyzing these phrases. I'm thinking deeply about the concept. I'm experimenting, I'm exploring, I'm trying different things out. Maybe this mistake where we're missing the subject is over here. So it is. And I'm doing it in a playful way, trying to do it in as few turns as possible. Again, this is just one possibility. I hope it sparks some thinking in you. Essentially, any game you want to build, all you have to do is describe it, and it can be so. You can do that with math, right? Common errors sorted into different categories. Simple, easy to bring to life. I love this as a way to add some authenticity. So if you're learning about compound interest and you want students to explore different ways that investment might cause money to grow, right? This is an authentic application. You can build a game where they try and choose different investment strategies and follow them over the course of several different years and see if they can maximize their money using what they understand about compound interest. You can build things where students are essentially interacting with manipulatives, right? Here's a simple game where they have to try and build shapes that have specific areas and perimeters. So we've got a goal of an area of 4, lots of different ways to do it. But once I build that, I can move on to a new one. Now I'm trying to build a shape with a perimeter of 10, right? So once I build that shape, I can move on to the next one. Lots of different ways for them to do that. Essentially, a virtual manipulative with some questions that I pre-programmed into it. Again, this kind of thing is simple and easy to bring to life. Also, if you've got games, you can build things to help support you. We've got this great game in our educator studio, which I'll talk about in just a second, where people are interacting with pentominoes. They're trying to get one pair of pentominoes to match up with another to make exactly the same shape to figure out how that works. Sometimes it's tough to solve some of these, so I built a platform to help us solve how these things might go together. So if students get stumped, essentially I've got a virtual answer key for my support. You can also build games that teach behavior, right? I wanted to teach about responsible risk taking. So I built a game where students got to take different levels of risk as a way for us to reflect on and have a conversation around taking responsible risks. If you want to build a game, a custom game where your rival mascot gets insulted, you can do that. Again, there is no real limit to what you can create for your students. You can have fun with it, you can be experimental, you can be exploratory, you can add that element of play right in. All right, I think Robin and I said that we would let you chat this. If you want to try and chat this, I'd love to see if this comes through. What games? You got to invent a game. What game might really benefit your students? I'm going to take a quick peek at the chat box and see if anything comes through. If not, that's perfectly all right too. GoToWebinar, our platform, said that they might have this functionality now. So we are going to experiment and try it out. Give you just a minute. What game might you like to build? Do you want to do the vocabulary memory? You want to build a What's My Rule? Or any other creation?
So Ben, I think they will have to put it in as a question. If you guys want to share via a question, that would be the best way to let Ben and I see that.
Otherwise, in the interest of time, we've only got 15 minutes remaining. You can just think, right? Think for yourself, jot some ideas down. Or if you have a great idea, you've got my email right there. Fire that email out. Let me know what you're interested in building, and I can help you bring your first one to life. By the way, speaking of games, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that VAI also has what's called our Educator Studio. Got a link to that in the resource hyperdoc as well, which comes with tons and tons of games and activities. Some are vibe coded, many are not. So if you're a teacher who values that, feel free to check out VAI Educators Studio. Another great thing that we can do with these tools is to create simulations to allow students to experiment, to explore, to try different ideas out. So this can be as simple as, say, you're teaching first graders about the needs of plants. So you want to let them plant a seed and choose some different conditions. Maybe you want to see what happens if they say there's no light for the plant. You can have them make some predictions. Maybe they think it's not going to grow or keep growing. And then they can test it out day by day. They can advance their plant and see what happens. Oh my goodness, this is surprising. I didn't think that it would grow like this. But it doesn't grow particularly well. And when we get to the end, it can offer them some information. Oh my goodness, we didn't think it would start growing, and it did. This new evidence surprised us. And again, how did I build this? Well, I wanted my kids to be able to experiment and explore with the needs of plants. So I went to my AI, I described the idea that I had. It gave me some code. I pasted it into CodePen, and this is what I've got. This one, I think, took me 3 iterations, little fixes that I thought of to add later. And now I've got a really cool tool that I could use with my first graders. You can do more complex ideas, right? Teaching some students about natural selection, right? I want to analyze the effect of different environments on natural selection. So here I'm going to have blue creatures and red creatures. If there's more blue, it's easier for the blue creatures to be camouflaged. I'm just going to run some simulations. They're going to procreate. There are predators who are going to go hunting for them. And then as time goes on, we can see what the effect on the population is. After 2 days of a more blue environment, I've got more blue creatures. If the environment changes, we can see what that does as well. So it's a way for us to experiment, to explore. Kids can get their hands on this, right? And they can investigate what happens in different circumstances, in different scenarios, and why. That hands-on learning for complex ideas is a really powerful thing with these tools. Now, there are a lot of these out there already. Some of you are familiar with the PhET simulations. If you're not, check them out. All sorts of incredible science simulations that allow students to do this exact sort of thing. So if your students ever wondered what happens if you put a block of aluminum on top of some styrofoam and dunk it in a vat of honey, they can experiment with that, right? These kind of things that would be really complex, convoluted, and extremely messy and sticky to do in real life, they can see what happens through a simulation. But if you want to take those, you want to tweak them, make them your own, you can definitely do that. So I looked at that PhET simulation, described it to AI, and now I've got this thing where I've got the same functionality, right? I can switch it from wood to ice, right, and see what happens. But I also wanted to add in what happens if we bring in some neutron star matter. Right? What does that look like? We've got a little thing down there that shows how big it is compared to a human hair. We know when it's going to break through and just plummet to the center of the Earth. So it allows you to get experimental with any of these simulation ideas. Have fun with it. You want to simulate something as complex as the effect of tax and spending policy on different economic variables? It's simple enough to build. You want to investigate scientific evidence. You want to have your students look at drug trials to see when they feel like there's enough evidence to draw a conclusion. They can do that. Essentially, whatever concept you're looking to model, you can build something. And again, the pathway is simple. Describe it to AI, get that code, put it into your playground, and then tweak it a couple of times. You'll be amazed at what you can create. The sky is absolutely the limit. So again, not going to worry about putting this into the chat or anything. Just think, however, what simulations might be really useful for you and for your students? What concepts would you love for them to be able to experiment and explore with that a simulation might be able to satisfy? If you've got some thoughts, again, feel free to fire me an email. I'd love to have a bunch of emails when I get done with this webinar of things that you wonder. We can learn through that conversation with others. I would love to help support you in that journey. Other teachers want to build teacher tools. They say, okay, what are some things that I could build that I could use in the classroom? Not games, not simulations, but just things to help us manage our classroom. So here's one that I actually built for a teacher on suggestion. They said, I'd like to have some sort of like random grouping tool, but I've got some students who I just don't want to be in the same group together. So we came up with a solution. Super fun. You put your class list. Let's make that picture a little bigger. Put your class list in here. As a small class. Specify how big these groups are going to be, what your maximum group size is. And then what it will do is it'll allow you to identify some students who you don't think should be in the same group together. If you want to add multiple groups of students who shouldn't be in the same group together, you can do that. And then when it enters classroom mode, what it does is it generates rings that are going to spin and generate groups. And the students who you don't want to be together are all in the same ring. So there's no possible way that they can be grouped together. It still feels super random, but you as a teacher are able to avoid those toxic pairings in a simple, straightforward way. All you have to do is put your class list in, tell it what students you don't want to be together, and then when you go to spin mode, you'll make sure to avoid those pairings. Again, super cool, super creative use for AI. So if you want, you can have it print those right in chart form. It's built for that because I thought that would be handy, right, as a function of this tool. If you want a certain function, all you have to do is ask. It's so cool. I always had trouble like monitoring, hey, how long has this person been out getting a drink, or how long have they been in the restroom? So I built this tool where you can click on individual people's names, where people, when they check out, can click on their name, say where they're going, and it will log the time that they left. It'll change to a darker version of that color if they've been out over the time that I specified. And at the end, it will give me a report of who was gone for how long. So if I want to have a conversation with the student about a problem we're noticing, I've got good evidence to back that up. Again, I wanted to be able to download it as a CSV, a comma separated value or spreadsheet file. So I asked it to put that functionality in. It is as simple as that. Noise meter. There are lots of noise meters out there, but I wanted one where I could add my own thresholds, where I could manipulate my thresholds, and where I could get good data at the end. So I built this tool, again, just asking for it, where I can take my independent work threshold, I can slide it up and down, and then I just enable my microphone. Oh, it's not letting me use my microphone because my microphone's being used by the webinar, but it works like a charm. If I find that I need to adjust this down to make it a little more challenging, it does that. It's color coded, so my class can see, hey, if we're getting a little too loud, it's yellow. If we're getting way too loud, it's red. And then at the end, it will give me a report for the amount of time that we spent in each of those zones. Again, I wanted a tool that does this, so I asked for it. It's like a magic lamp. We also want to share some ideas regarding evaluation. We know from cognitive science that expressing your confidence before you answer a question is a great metacognitive tool that can help students remember things. And so we could take an assessment, and before students lock their answer in, we could ask them to slide a confidence scale to indicate how confident they are in their answer. Right? So if they're really confident, they can slide it way up here. And then if they get it wrong, they drop more points for being confidently wrong. So just a way for them to kind of playfully gamify an important cognitive skill. We also know that students should be able to revisit different concepts that they might be struggling with, right? To collect those things that they got wrong. So I built a little assessment, which is clearing the deck, where every question is a baboon. If you get it correct, you clear that baboon off the deck. But if you get it incorrect, that baboon stays on the deck, and you get a chance to address that question again at the end, so that those questions that you miss come back for you at the end. And before you can exit the assessment, before you can exit the activity, you will have answered everything correctly. You can build an exit ticket. It's so powerful to circle back to different concepts after a little bit of time. So you can ask an exit ticket. I love the 3-2-1 approach. 3 questions from today, 1 from the last week, or sorry, 2 from the last week or so, 1 from longer ago than that. So we get a chance to revisit things in a simple exit ticket form. Again, so many possibilities. If you want it to happen, you can make it happen. That's what I want you to take away today. You can have students get a report. You can get a report on students on which concepts they get right, which concepts they got wrong. You can ask it to analyze it for you. There's so many possibilities. As we come to a close, I'm curious, Robin, open this poll up. What are the ones that you think might be most useful to you? Games, simulations, teacher tools, evaluations. What do you think might be useful to you? And Robin, we have to get these fine people out of here in 3 minutes, so don't give them very long to answer. Let's let them lock their answers in. What do you think? Another 8 seconds? Does that sound about right?
Sounds good.
7, 5, 3, 2, 1, and let's lock those answers in. What do we see there, Robin?
All right, looks like we are even Steven across a couple of these. So 45% for both games and simulations, and 36% for teacher tools and evaluation.
And again, if you
all useful.
Awesome. If you have any questions at all, my email address is right down there. Fire me an email. Let me know how I can help to support you. That's what our organization does. We exist to support educators in doing awesome work. So next steps. First recommendation, we want our kids to learn through hands-on investigation, through experimenting and exploring. Do that yourself. Try this out. See what it's like. If you have any questions, let me know, or let your favorite AI know. Feel free to send me an email with anything I can do to help support. If you think this is really fascinating and you would love to do some additional professional development, I am happy to come to your school or to do a virtual PD for you and for your school. Did I build a vibe-coded tool to help you do that? Yes. So in your resource HyperDoc, toward the bottom, there's this thing where you can click on it, and it will allow you to express what your school might be interested in, right? And it will generate a couple of different options for how we might be able to meet those needs. Feel free to share that with anyone who's in charge of professional development if you think that your school would benefit from having a staff full of super powered vibe coding teachers. If you prefer the personal touch, again, there's that QR code. You can scan that and set up a time where you and I can talk about what this stuff can do for you and how we might be able to help you bring it to life. And again, support each other. Find some colleagues and discuss this with them. We learn so much better when we're in community with each other. All of our PD strives to do just that as well. So start connecting, collaborating, communicating with your colleagues about what these tools can do for you. After we're finished today, there'll be a quick little survey. Would love if you could stick around and answer that. But as we bring this to a close, I'd like to say two things. First, I'd like to say these things are awesome. Check them out. Don't be afraid. Dip your toes in and dabble. And second, thank you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for considering acquiring this superpower. And above all, thanks for everything you do to improve the lives and the learning of your students. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful school year.